There's just something about a good heist movie. The Italian Job, released in May of 2003, directed by F. Gary Gray, with a runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes. Starring Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Donald Sutherland, Jason Statham, Seth Green, Yasin Bey, and Edward Norton. Had a reported budget of $60 million, a domestic take of $106 million, a foreign take of $69 million, giving a worldwide take of $176 million. All of that adding up to a profit of $116 million. According to IMDb, there seems to be a remake or a sequel in the works called The Brazilian Job. I'm going to have to dig around to see what I can find out about that one, because I'm curious. Let's have a look at the characters. We'll start with John. John is the mentor of the group. He's the old man. He's the old thief. He's the guy that started all this. He would have been their handler and their coordinator at the very beginning of all their little thieving careers. They worked really hard to make him likable and relatable, like everyone's favorite grandfather who happens to be a heist mastermind. And they did a good job at that. In fact, they worked so hard at it to begin with, you know he's going to die. They just spent too much time making him everyone's favorite. It kind of telegraphed that. And now for the star, Charlie Crocker. He's the new mastermind. Torch is being passed to him, and Mark Wahlberg does a very good job at him. Always calm and cool and collected, always has a little plan, adapts to the ever-changing situations of a heist very well, very quick. He's a very chill dude. Little too chill in some ways. I mean, he does show emotion, he does get upset, he does get a little frustrated, but not very often. The definite Iceman of the group. Then we've got Handsome Rob, played by Jason Statham. It's everything you expect a Statham role to be. He's just that guy. He's tough. He's clever. He's the ace driver in the team. He's Mr. Smooth with the ladies. He's got the one-liners. He's all the charm and charisma. It's basically Jason Statham playing Jason Statham. Actually, unfortunately, that's about as deep as his character gets as well. Whilst good, it's Jason Statham cashing in a check. Lyle, the tech nerd. Mr. Computers, Mr. Gadgets. He's the digital wizard who helps the team case places, plan things out, coordinate from the background. Safe, secure, and online. Again, he's a stereotype, and he's a pretty solid one. He's a well-presented one. He's clearly the top of his game. His game, however, has been played out before by a wide variety of characters and a wide variety of movies. An enjoyable character, but unfortunately nothing really new to see here. Our explosives and demolitions expert, Left Ear. The cool cat, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Suave. Very hard to get him ruffled. Loves blowing things up. Loves his payday. He's your secondary technical wizard. Well presented, well done, but well covered ground. Fun, but very familiar. We have Stella, daughter of John. Not the career criminal. Actually works as a freelancer for the FBI and other law enforcement agencies as a safecracker. Theron presents really well in this role. She's probably the strongest actor in the group, holds up against Mark Wahlberg very, very well. In fact, outshines him with most of the emotional range and depth of character in pretty much every scene she's in. They give her a bit of emotional depth, a bit of development and character building in this, but not a lot. More than most of them get. In fact, more than all of them get. Just touching on the surface. Steve, played by Ed Norton. Man, Norton can really make you love to hate a character. He plays a real slimy creep in this one. The mustache really sells it. Edward Norton always plays such a shifty character. Like, almost always. Does present a threat, is very clearly a menace, a dangerous guy, will just kill you, will double cross you, has no qualms about that, which is really good for this sort of movie. You need someone to be the black hat, so to speak, because everyone else in this movie, they're thieves, but they've got a moral code. This guy is just a straight-up crook, and the most realistic in that respect, I suppose. He even states at one stage, don't talk to him about right or wrong, because he doesn't care. I'd say Norton and Theron are the two standout characters in this movie. A couple of the support actors that pop up in the background, you swear you've seen a lot before, and this guy you have seen before. He's been in a lot of things. Lots of TV shows, lots of movies. He's been everything from leading man to background support actor. He's done the whole lot. But as for characters, look, they're good, they're serviceable, they're pleasant to watch, there's nothing bad about them, there's nothing poorly done about them, except for the fact that you've already seen them many times before and in many sorts of movies. I'm going to end up giving the characters in this movie a 2.75. Not necessarily because they're bad in any way, but in heist movies, you've really got to bring some personality to the table. It's all about the characters doing the job. And unfortunately, the job itself is more interesting than the characters trying to pull it off. So yeah, 2.75. Okay then, so on to story. This is another heist movie. This is your criminal caper. And at the beginning, it's pretty stock standard. There is no surprises here. It's good. It's well presented. It sets up well. You've got the team working together really nicely. And it all flows along like a good old little heist movie should. Much like the characters, this was feeling like a fairly standard operation. Good news is, it all gets interesting when things start going wrong. And things go wrong a lot in this one. We'll start with the actual Italian job, the heist the movie gets its name from. That's at the beginning. That happens in Italy. Venice, actually. The whole heist goes off with a bang and a boat chase. The boat chase being a fake out, which is a good thing because I was wondering how on earth they caught a safe in a boat and didn't just punch it clean through the bottom and sink the rotten thing. But no, that was part of the master plan. Everyone chasing the fake. That whole sequence worked really well. It was entertaining. It was enjoyable. You knew the betrayal was coming. You weren't entirely sure who it was going to be, but Edward Norton's character just gave off this vibe, and it was telegraphed. And it wasn't disappointing because the betrayal sequence hurt to watch. Okay, so it wasn't super hard to watch, but you liked John. He was a nice dude. Shouldn't have gone out that way. But hey, you gotta make the bad guy bad, right? After the betrayal, it turns into a revenge heist. Sure, they want the gold back, but most importantly, they want revenge. They recruit Stella, takes a little bit of work, not too much though, because you only got so much time in the first act. But then she's on board, the crew's collected, and the game is afoot. You got the surveillance on Steve, you got the recon in his house, you've got Stella going in undercover to check out his house from the inside, you get all the fun and games or the setup. I always love that about heist movies, when you see the team doing their montage or their extended sequence of setting up and getting the tech ready and shots of surveillance cameras and looking at maps and planning things out and the discussion and the dialogue around that. That's my favorite part of this movie. And due to the screw ups and everything that goes wrong in just trying to get the job done, we get two of those. Steve goes off to see his gold buyer to sell some more bricks. You've got a feeling that something's going to go wrong with that because they give Steve a real air of menace, and Yevon, his gold fence, a bit of a chatterbox, and you just got this feeling he's going to mess up soon. And then mess up he does. Of course, Steve shoots him because we've established that Steve doesn't care. Right, wrong, be damned. You're in the way, bang, bang, bang. And that's where it goes wrong for Steve because his cousin, a Ukrainian mobster, is now out for revenge. So now we've got Charlie and his crew hunting Steve, and the Ukrainians hunting both of them, because they don't care who did it, they just want vengeance. And then because they wrote Steve as not being a complete idiot, he figures out that they're onto him pretty quickly. And then Stella's cover is blown, and the game is up. All the boys have to step in and reveal their hand. Now, Steve, like I said, is not an idiot. He mouths off a bit, he gets cocky, he gets confident, but then he scarpers real quick. And he's clearly learned a thing or two because in his escape plan, they end up playing a shell game with armored trucks dodging throughout the city. You got Charlie and their crew trying to tail the right truck, the two fake trucks being diversions, and Steve in a helicopter flying around keeping an eye on everything. Very well arranged sequence. It demonstrates Charlie's quick thinking by getting Lyle to check through all the surveillance cameras to see which of the trucks is riding lowest, which has got the greatest spring compression, because that'll be the one full of the gold. He's a clever boy, Charlie. That leaves Steve unable to really do anything from the helicopter, just watching as the team manipulates traffic cameras to guide the truck where they want it to go. Blow a hole in the street, drop the truck down into the subway, unload the gold, and bugger off in the minis, giving us a motorbike and minis chase scene throughout the underground. Overall, throughout this whole end sequence, they keep up the tension, they keep having things go wrong, they change up the safe, they make it a harder safe to crack, they send in the motorbikes like I said. You've got other complications with the helicopter chase and Steve getting desperate and trying to use the helicopter as a weapon. It all keeps stacking up, all keeps adding up, and it's actually very nicely done. At the very end, for a moment there, you think one of the help that they brought on, a guy called Wrench, looked like he was selling everyone out to Steve. However, that was the final double cross where they'd actually arranged with the Ukrainians to hand Steve over. To be honest with what the Ukrainians had planned for Steve, yeah, I kind of felt bad for him. It all ties up neatly at the end with everybody getting their happy ending. Well, apart from Steve. So yeah, it started fairly pedestrian but ended up quite exciting. I'll give story a 3. Look and feel. So the standout in this movie is the music. The music propels this movie along. It's really well designed. It complements scenes, it accentuates moments, it gives you a real feeling, gives you an energy. It does exactly what movie music is meant to do in the first place. But in this case, it does it particularly well, noticeably well. To be honest, when I rewatched the original Italian Job, I did notice the distinct lack of music, atmospheric music, any sort of action beats, any sort of accompany score, just missing for that movie. And it really detracted. Heist movie needs heist music. Yeah, alright, I know. The original is always the best. The original is always the better version. No one can top the original movie. Sorry, but in my relatively humble opinion, this one does. The original failed to hold my attention. As for the settings, Venice is beautiful. Venice is always beautiful. Venice is a very filmable city, and it looks nice. It's not in it for very long, because then we end up back in Hollywood. Hollywood looks particularly Hollywood, by the way. You got the stars on the sidewalk, you got the heavy traffic, you got all the lovely scenery in the background. By lovely, I mean city skylines. Then again, who knows if it was even filmed in Hollywood? I'll have to check that. It may not have been. At the end of the day, it was a city, it was full of traffic, presenting their own problems. It did what it had to do. But now for the real stars of the movie, the minis. I love those cars, and I love all the sequences where the cars are being used. I'm so glad they kept that concept from the original movie. Going back to the topic of the original movie, yeah, I know, different time periods, different styles of movie, different everything. Different. That's all well and good. But still, it's boring to watch. It was just superb watching the minis dash around, when they're testing them out, when they're driving them down steps and in amongst train lines and over aqueducts and all that sort of fun stuff. Aqueduct? Is it an aqueduct? I would just call them massive stormwater drain. The big concrete tunnels where all the water go, when they're driving around in them, that was very, very cool. It's tempting to say, oh, they should have had more car chase sequences, more events with the minis, use them more. But I don't know, maybe less is better in this regard. You don't want to overuse it because then maybe it doesn't become as special. Kind of like in the Star Wars prequels where you couldn't go 10 feet without tripping over a Jedi somewhere. Also gotta say, the betrayal sequence in those snow-covered mountains, yeah, that was a very beautiful look, very scenic, and also kind of fitted the cold, harsh reality of a betrayal. Almost like it was intentional. Look and feel, everything's kind of generic. Yet another heist movie, except the minis were great and the music sold it so well. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.25 for look and feel. Script and dialogue. Well, as far as all that's concerned, I'm happy to say that most of this movie felt very chill, very natural. It just flowed out of the situation and the circumstance. The crew were witty, they were clever, they sounded like a bunch of friends that hung out and gave each other crap all the time. Which is what a lot of my friends do, so yeah, it felt like I was just home actually. Watching the stakeout reveal that things are going to be easy, to not so easy, to hard, to worse, was actually a nice way to build the tension up. Just watching all the characters reacting to things getting worse and worse and worse. Different characters mocking Jason Statham's accent was nice. Lyle impersonating Rob, giving you a voiceover as to what he's assuming Rob's saying, as he's seducing a girl to try and get the keys to the car and the literal shirt off her back. It was a very clever little sequence. It was nice to see Seth Green's vocal range at that point. His impersonations are pretty nice. Actually, just because of all the roles that Jason Statham ends up in, I kept expecting him to get tough, pick a fight, beat down on someone, be the standover guy. But he never was. He never threw a punch. I think he frowned a few times. No, he did stand around looking mean in the restaurant. Once. Speaking of throwing down, when Stella was in Steve's house and she's walking around pretending to be the cable repair girl. Her body language and the way she was presenting, I was just waiting for her to turn around and stab him or shoot him or beat him up. She really wanted to cut loose on Steve, and it was cool watching that. Steve's trying to be charming and hitting on her, and Stella's just so not wanting to be there. Anytime it was Norton v. Theron in any of the scenes together, it was a good time. Probably some of the best dialogue, some of the best interpersonal acting were in those scenes. I mean, I like Mark Wahlberg, don't get me wrong, he's good. But it's Norton, and it's Theron. The other funny little character moment was Lefty and Charlie in harnesses in the subway tunnels, I think. And they're setting up all the explosives. And Lefty points out that if he makes a mistake here, they're all dead. And they just a little moment silence. And then a long shot. And quietly hear Lefty going, Charlie, I love you, man. They took the time for a little gag like that, and I appreciated that. That was cool. Not much more to go on with script and dialogue, I'm afraid. It was your standard heist chatter. Discussing this, discussing that, setup, exposition, setup. Well delivered, well done, well acted, but just nothing super standout. I'll be giving script and dialogue a 3. Okay, I keep making 3 sound bad. 3 isn't bad. 3's good, but 3 is your standard good. It's like a benchmark for what you want in a movie. You want a 3. You don't want below a 3. And lastly, fun factor. Did I have fun? Yeah, I did. Was it fantastic? Not necessarily. It was your standard default heist movie. It was fun. It was fast. It was witty. It hit all the beats. It checked all the boxes. The standout moments were the minis. Anytime the minis were happening, it was a great time. Everything else was okay. The villain was enjoyable to hate. The team was fun enough to follow around. The heist kept getting more and more complicated. None of the characters were truly engrossing, but still none of them sucked either. So, you know, that's good. End of the day, it provided what it promised. There was no disappointments. It gets a 3. It was fun. Okay, final score. Well, you add them all together and you get a 15. This is your base standard good movie. Not great, not bad, just good. Sure, I'd recommend it. If you like heist movies, you'll enjoy this. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching and I hope you had a good time. Comment down below about what your favourite heist movie is. I'm curious to see if we're going to get anything other than the Ocean's 11 series down there. As usual, like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and share it with your friends. Hope you all have a great week, and please go watch a movie for me.